Hello there, dear friend. Come in, get comfy. Maybe you're curled up under a blanket, sipping tea, or just looking for a peaceful little escape. Whatever brought you here, you're very welcome. This is a story for everyone, children, grown-ups, and dreamers alike. Today, I'll take you to a quiet place, hidden high up in the mountains, where magic is real, but very, very gentle. There's a small village nestled between the snowy peaks and pine-covered slopes, a place called Windelmoot. The name sounds like a whisper in the wind, and that's exactly what the village feels like. Soft, safe, sweet. The homes in Windelmoot are made of warm stone and old wood, with mossy roofs and round little chimneys that puff out white smoke like sleepy sighs. At dawn, golden sunlight spills over the cliffs and washes everything in honey-colored light. You can smell fresh bread from the bakery, hear the soft clinking of wind chimes, and see children chasing glowing moths between the garden paths. But Windelmoot is no ordinary village. You see, it's a gathering place for magical folk. Not the loud kind with fireballs and storms, no. These are gentle wizards, smiling sorcerers, and kind-hearted creatures who love tea, music, and growing flowers with their spells. And once a year, they come together for something very special. It's not a battle, it's not a fight. It's called the Games. The games aren't about winning or showing off. They're about sharing, laughing, and learning. Each participant brings a magical object, a wand, a crystal, a talking hat, or maybe a glowing scarf that sings lullabies. They gently wager their magical tools in little friendly challenges, not to take from others just for fun. Whoever wins a game borrows the other's item for a year. Then they bring it back next time with a thank you note and a story to tell. Now, let me introduce you to our main character. Her name is Lila Fern, and she's not a famous sorceress. She's just a kind girl with bright eyes, curly brown hair, and a heart as big as the mountains themselves. She wears patchy robes, keeps wildflowers in her pockets, and carries a satchel full of honey drops, knitting needles, and a very small, very polite toad named Pip. Lila lives in a cottage on the edge of Windelmoot, just beyond the apple grove. Her windows are covered with lace curtains, and there are always glowing mushrooms growing by her door. She loves stories, especially ones told in the quiet hour before bed. This year, she's entering the games for the first time. Not to win, not to prove anything, just to belong. She's made something special, a charm bracelet of tiny stars, each one sewn from silver thread and filled with whispered wishes. As the games draw near, Lila looks out over the misty village and wonders who she'll meet. Old Merla? The broom-dancing witch? The twins from the floating cottage? Or perhaps someone new, someone who's never been to Windelmoot before. But no matter who comes, one thing is certain: magic is in the air, and it's very, very kind. The morning of the games arrived like a quiet song. Soft bells chimed in the breeze, and sunlight poured over the mountaintops like warm milk. The village of Windelmoot glowed with color banners made of silk floated in the air, flower petals danced across the cobbled paths, and laughter bubbled like gentle streams. Lila Fern stood outside her cottage, adjusting the starry charm bracelet on her wrist. Pip the toad peeked from her satchel, blinking slowly, as if to say, "Ready when you are." With a deep breath and a hopeful heart, Lila began the walk toward the village square. As she walked through the apple grove, she passed neighbors trimming floating lanterns and singing to their herbs so they'd bloom with extra sparkle. A cat wearing spectacles nodded at her politely, and a tree waved one of its leafy arms in greeting. This was the magic of Windelmoot. Not big, not loud, but alive in the sweetest ways. The square was filled with cozy booths, soft blankets spread out like picnic spots, and enchanted treats that refilled themselves. A table of warm cinnamon cakes kept humming lullabies, and a teapot with butterfly wings offered cups of flower-scented tea to anyone who walked by. Lila's eyes sparkled as she looked around. She saw old Merla twirling on a floating broom, her silvery hair glimmering in the sun. The mirror twins, blue-haired and barefoot, juggled bubbles that turned into dandelions midair. A gentle bear in robes was carving runes into pumpkins and giving them silly voices. Every corner held a small, delightful surprise, but Lila didn't rush. She took it all in like sipping warm soup slowly and gratefully. "First year?" someone asked. Lila turned to see a boy about her age, with freckles, a bright green cloak, and a satchel filled with small bottles that chimed when he moved. His name stitched onto his collar read Tibbin. "I'm Lila," she said shyly, offering a soft smile. "Yes, first year." "I'm second," Tibbin grinned. "I brought my giggle dust. It makes birds laugh. Watch." He tossed a pinch of sparkling powder into the air. A bird perched on a nearby post giggled so hard it nearly fell over. Lila laughed too. The sound surprised even her. "That's very silly." "Best kind of magic," Tibbin said proudly. They wandered together, joining small games. Nothing was serious. One game asked them to turn raindrops into music. Another was about growing the coziest-looking plant. Lila's bloomed into a plump, glowing mushroom that sang lullabies, while Tibbin's grew feathers and asked politely to be named Gerald. At one booth, Lila offered her charm bracelet. The challenge was simple. Tell a true story from the heart. She told the tale of the time she helped a lost fox find its den, using only warmth, kindness, and a soft humming spell. The crowd around her listened closely. When she finished, there were teary eyes and soft claps. One elder, her cheeks round and rosy, traded her a magical acorn that always found its way home. Lila clutched it gently, heart full. As the sky turned peach with sunset, the lanterns above the square began to glow, not from flame, but from joy. They fed on laughter and kindness, and tonight they were brighter than ever. Tibbin sat beside her on a bench shaped like a sleeping dragon. "I think you belong here," he said. Matter of fact. Lila didn't answer right away. She just looked around at the soft lights, the happy faces, the warmth in her chest. Then she nodded slowly. "I think I do." And in the heart of the mountain village, under a sky of floating stars, the games continued not as a contest, but as a celebration of every small, beautiful thing shared between magical friends. The final morning of the games arrived quietly, like a cat padding across a quilt. Mist curled between the rooftops of Windelmoot, and the sky above the mountains was pale lavender, the color of dreams just waking up. Lila Fern woke early, the charm bracelet still fastened around her wrist, each little star humming gently in her sleep. Pip the toad gave a tiny croak from the windowsill, watching the soft clouds drift past. Down in the village square, the last day of the games was always the calmest. No more contests, no more sparkling games, just stories, music, and goodbyes. Lila wrapped herself in a shawl that smelled of herbs and fireplace smoke, tucked Pip into her satchel, and stepped out into the cool air. As she walked past the apple trees, she saw old Merla floating by in her robe, humming to herself and knitting clouds into scarves. "Morning, love," Merla called, tossing Lila a smile. "You looked like you belonged yesterday." Lila blushed. "Thank you." At the square, soft blankets had been laid out in a circle, and everyone gathered their wizards, forest spirits, talking owls, even the grumpy stone golem who lived by the stream. They all sat together, sipping flour, tea, and trading little gifts. Not big ones, just tokens. A spoon that stirred itself, a pebble that whispered jokes, a pine cone that smelled like someone you missed. Tibbin found her and flopped down beside her with a sleepy grin. "Last day," he said with a small sigh. "I don't want it to end," Lila whispered. "It doesn't," he replied. "It just rests for a while." Everyone was invited to share something, a memory, a song, a quiet thought. Lila didn't think she would speak, but when her turn came, her heart surprised her. She stood, brushing crumbs from her skirt, and held up her bracelet. "These stars," she said, voice soft but clear, "were made from hopes I never said out loud. But this week, I think I've lived every one of them. There was a stillness, not empty, full of warmth. A slow smile spread across faces old and young. Even the floating cat gave a tiny approving blink. Someone began to hum, and soon everyone joined a wordless tune that rose like smoke and settled like snow. It wasn't a spell. Not exactly. But it felt like magic, soft and strong. As the sun dipped low behind the mountains, the final lanterns floated upward, blinking like fireflies. Each one carried a wish written in invisible ink, only the wind would know where they landed. Lila hugged Tibbin, gave Pip a kiss on his shiny head, and accepted a small jar of honey from the crystal elf as a thank you for her story. Her satchel was now filled with quiet treasures, a memory in every pocket. As she walked home that evening, her heart was full in the best way, not bursting, but glowing, like the last embers of a perfect fire. And though the games were over, Windelmoot remained. The pine tree still whispered, the clouds still drifted, and magic, real, gentle magic, was still there, waiting for next year. And that's the end of our story, dear friend. Thank you so much for joining me in the soft, sparkling world of the games. If this tale brought you warmth, peace, or just a little smile today, I'd love for you to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and come back soon. We'll have more cozy, magical stories waiting just for you. Take care, and may your heart always glow like a lantern in the sky.